Good morning, PASW staff, clients, and friends joining us. Hey now, welcome to Tuesday's class. Yesterday was the film scoring assignment for A Beautiful Mind, and we're going to do a good job with that, I'm sensing. So get the pieces into me today, and we'll see the beautiful results on Friday. You guys are getting better and better and better. Today's going to be tough but fun. We're going to tackle a Russian composer, maybe the most important Russian composer that was born just right before the 20th century started. And I don't know if I've talked about his name, but I guarantee you know a few of his pieces. When you talk about genius, gosh, I mean, reading researching this class, it just makes me feel so inadequate, like I've done nothing. I mean, this guy was such a monumental force of music in 20th century and influenced, just film composers. I mean, John Williams will openly say that he owes so much of his influence to this giant Russian genius. Today we're going to be talking about Sergei Prokofiev. So this guy completed 7 operas, 7 symphonies, 8 ballets, 5 piano concertos, 2 violin concertos, a cello concerto, a symphony concerto for cello and orchestra, and 9 completed piano sonatas, all within 61 years. He died when he was 61 in 1953, the same exact day Stalin died, which took away a lot of the focus because, this was all in Russia. And of course, Stalin was huge, and I think it interrupted with a lot of the funeral plans that Prokofiev's wife and family had. But written all that music because he started at a young age. His mom played piano, Chopin and Beethoven for him when he was very young, and by 5, he wrote his first composition. And then by 9, he wrote his first opera, The Giant. So child prodigy, to say the least, and supposedly a brilliant chess player too. So I'm so intimidated by this guy already. It's just, and I think he was quite an intellect and a little bit arrogant. But again, I say when you're arrogant, that's not the best quality. But if you have the talent to back it up, it's excusable maybe. So born in 1891. Big thing happens in 1891. We get Carnegie Hall. Now, if you don't know the name, it's not Carnegie Deli. That's a different place. That's where they have great sandwiches. But it's in New York. Carnegie Hall is on 7th Avenue, right in Midtown Manhattan. And it's I've been there a few times. It's a wonderful place to hear classical music. So that's built the year Prokofiev is born. The joke is, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And the answer is to practice. If once you've performed there, you know that you've made it in some ways, and it's still thriving. So as a teenager, he goes to the St. Petersburg Conservatory at the age of 13. So he's already a prodigy and studying classical music and piano and conducting, but he's a brilliant pianist already. He's most known, and this is the music we're gonna have fun with today. He's most known for Peter and the Wolf, which we'll listen to, which you guys have probably heard of, and I played in class one time, which is kind of, he wrote for his kids and for kids in general. It's an educational piece where he wrote it in 4 days. That's it, and it was a favor to the Moscow Children's Musical Theater, and he said, pay me however much you can afford. So I don't know how much that was, but you have a narrator, and that narrator explains each instrument in the orchestra. And apart from it being kind of a simple, sounding simple, like a simple exercise, it's actually wonderful, beautiful music. So fun. I mean, I think kind of every kid had that record growing up, and there's many famous people that have narrated it, and there's also versions where there's no narration, it's just lovely music. A very cool groovy organ jazz composer, did a whole Peter and the Wolf jazz album, and Oliver Nelson, who we talked about, did an arrangement of that album, which is very cool. So Peter and the Wolf is 1936. So in 1917 he leaves. He goes to the United States. He goes to Chicago, New York, to get out of what the war is going on. And then in 1921 comes up with a very famous piece that's super fun, very March-like. His music is dissonant, but he loved melody. But it's modern music. That's what he kind of described his music as. You have the Romantic period, the end of the 1800s, Tchaikovsky and all that stuff, and then you get some atonal stuff with Schoenberg, and then Stravinsky's in there. But Prokofiev's doing his own kind of mixture of atonality and also melody and heavy orchestration. So when in Chicago he premieres in 1921 this opera that got kind of mixed reviews, but it went on to be performed all the time, and it's this is the march from The Love for Three Oranges. A lot of people didn't like this. They were confused. It was slightly surreal. Again, this is in the 20s. Surrealism was happening with Eric Satie and all those other people that you guys know about, of course. But Ben Hecht, who wrote, was one of the most famous screenwriters in Hollywood, and super great guy. He said there's nothing difficult about this music unless you are unfortunate enough to be a music critic. So I thought that was kind of funny. It works out well if you're just a listener, but if you're a music critic, you're going to have some problems with it, and I don't know what those problems are going to be like, but they're your problems. So that was fun. That was funny. I mean, it's such a fun, humorous piece. So again, with composers we've talked about humor in pieces, Rossini, Stravinsky, they make you laugh even though there's no lyrics. Prokofiev had a lot of humor in his pieces, and theatrical march-like stuff, which because of that, Eisenstein, the great film director who we'll talk about, asked him to do a film score, because this is in the 30s. As we know, films are alive and well there, and he asked him to do Alexander Nevsky, and this is some of Prokofiev's most brilliant and dramatic music, and he later adapted it into a score for a larger cantata, but it's performed a lot. And then if we go back to, he goes back to Europe because, that's his home. And so after writing Peter and the Wolf in 1936, he goes on to the one of his most famous pieces, a ballet. Even though he liked operas more, he considered himself, that was what he wanted to do, was opera. Instead, he did the very famous ballet to Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet has one of the greatest pieces ever written, not even of the 20th century, but the piece Dance of the Nights is terrifyingly beautiful. just so badass. Like how it makes you want to dance. It's so theatrical. It's so, I mean, it's just, it's like you could do a masquerade. You could just do, it's such great dramatic party music. It reminds me of just like like an Eyes Wide Shut party or something, like, it's just got such great energy to it. The orchestrations are gorgeous, and it's fun seeing. I like to show the live orchestra sometimes playing it, because you see the trombones and the horns are just, they're vicious with those long brassy notes. So Dance of the Nights, the whole ballet is wonderful, beautiful music. I saw it once, and there was some controversy because he changed the ending. He changed Shakespeare's ending where it was a happy ending. But so those three pieces are probably his best: the Love for Three Oranges, Peter and the Wolf, and Romeo and Juliet. That's wonderful music. He was such a monumental genius in the 20th century that it's hard not to mention his name, and influenced so many film composers. I mean, not just John Williams, but other people. And I remember reading this quote in college. I always thought it was really great. I actually didn't think it was attributed to him, but he said, "There are still so many beautiful things to be said in C major." And that's a great line. C major, as we know, is kind of, when you're learning music for the first time, you learn a C major scale. It's just a simple scale. And the key, many times, at least with me, when I'm trying to figure out something, I will start with C. It's just kind of the easiest. There's not any accidentals. So you just kind of... so for a very sophisticated, genius, modern chess player, Russian, arrogant composer, there's still many beautiful things to be said in C major, meaning that there's still tons of music out there. So we don't need a complex problem to go into. We can just say something as beautiful and simple as C major. There's still tons to discover in that, which is very enlightening for us artists. And in fact, I might write something after this in C major, because he's not saying it's got to be C sharp minor and that's where all the musics need to be written. He's saying something as beautiful and simple as C. And then once you tackle the simplicity, then you can get into making it dissonant, making it interesting, making it, evolve into different territories. But a lot of still beautiful things in the key of C major, in the simplest keys. So hope you like Prokofiev. Brilliant composer. Love him. And have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow.